Welcome back to our C Sharp beginners tutorial. In the previous lesson, we just looked at methods with arguments 2. In this lesson, like I said, we're going to do something very different. We're going to start looking at objects. So, by the way, let me bring up Notepad just to Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to look at objects spelled objects, okay? And hopefully we'll have a look at classes. If the time is, if we don't take too much time in looking at objects, still in this lesson we could have a look at a sample of a class. But hopefully by the next lesson we should be able to cover both objects and classes. Okay, so let's go ahead and start Visual Studio. Okay, we create a new project. I'm going to create a console application, and as usual, so we're going to call it let's put it in my apps folder. We'll call it objects app, and we select the objects app folder, and then the name of the project, we can call it objects basics. Objects basics. If I can spell basics, okay. And then hit create to create the solution. And okay, so today we're going to look at objects. Like I said, we are going to notice something very different from what we've been doing. So all this while we have been creating classes. Okay, maybe I should just give a brief overview of what objects are before we start looking at objects. Okay, so let me bring up my notepad. So what is an object really? What is an object in the context of programming? An object in the context of programming is nothing much more complicated than just a collection of variables and methods. Actually, those variables are called fields. So collection of variables and fields are bound together under one entity. Okay, this is just me trying to give a brief definition of, or a very unofficial definition of what an object is in programming. Okay, so it's just a collection. We know what variables are. We've seen what variables are. Variables and methods, actually. Variables and methods. So these variables in the context of objects, they are actually called fields. Okay, I think not all. Okay, yeah, they are called fields, though there are what we call properties in the context of C# programming, but they all fall under they all kind of fall under fields. We're going to look at what properties are later. But really, an object is just a collection of variables and methods. I know we've done what variables are, so we do know what variables are, right? We've also looked at methods. We looked at 4 different or several different types of methods. We've seen how you can use a method that takes an argument, a method that returns a value, methods that do not return a value. An object is basically just a collection of variables, and those types of methods, doesn't matter what type of methods, collection of variables and methods bound together. This is actually a keyword because those variables and methods, they're not just anywhere in your code. Okay, those variables and methods are actually bound together under one entity, and that entity, that single entity, is known as the object. Okay, um let's have a look at an example of what an object is. Maybe that will give you an idea of what an object is. Okay, so imagine we have let me see, what's the basic example of an object I can think of that comes bundled uh, with the C sharp program. Okay, maybe I can't think of one. So maybe we'll create one. And the reason why I don't really want to jump into creation of objects is because to create an object, you need a class. Okay, you need a class to create an object. And I don't want us to actually look at classes yet. I just want us to see an example of an object. Let me see. Let's see. I think a string is an example of an object. So let's just create a string. Let's say string. Okay, let's create it inside this class. So no, not really. Okay, let's say string my string object, okay, equals, let's initiate it. Okay, let's say hello. Okay, just a normal literal string. So we do know this is a variable, right? Now what I want you to understand is, yes, this is a variable. Okay, it's actually a variable name. However, this is actually at the time when you initiate this variable by assigning it this hello string. What you have actually done is you have actually created, that's underneath, what actually happens underneath, you have actually created an object. Okay, you have actually created an object of string class. Okay, just to prove my point and to show you that my string object holds an object, we're going to write something like my string object, and then we follow it with a period dot. Now this is the way you actually access all the members of an object. Okay, remember what I told you, don't forget, an object, if you remember, an object, I don't want to have to bring up my notepad anymore. An object is a collection of variables and methods. Okay, so if I write my string object dot, that's a period, it allows me to access all the members, that's all the variables and all the methods that this object, or that this variable, the object which this variable is holding, possess. The moment I put that period, you notice we get this list. Okay, so we have a length. If you read the IntelliSense pop-up, you'll see that it is an int. Okay, string.length. What this string.length is just saying is that it's saying, what this string is telling you is that the object is of type string. Okay, and then the length, that's the length property, or the length, actually this is a property. Okay, but we'll look at properties later, but just think of it like a variable. Okay, this variable, this length variable of this object, is of type int. Okay, is of type int, meaning that this object contains a variable of type int called length. It also contains another variable called trim. Okay, it also contains another variable called contains. Okay, in this, oh, okay, actually, trim is not a variable. Trim is actually a method. Okay, remember we said an object contains methods and variables. So length is a variable, trim is a method, contains is a method. How do you know if it's a method? You look at the symbol here. If you see a spanner actually means it's a property. But for now, since we haven't treated properties, just imagine it's a method. Okay, imagine it's a variable. It's a variable. Yeah, we've done variables. So you know what a variable is. A variable is like a box where you can store something. Okay, and the data type is int. Okay, look at it here. And then there's trim. You can notice this little three-dimensional purple box that's by the side of this trim. That is telling you that trim is actually a method. Okay, another way you can know that trim is a method is in the IntelliSense pop-up that comes up. You can see that after the string dot trim, you can see it has a normal bracket open and a normal bracket close. Okay, that's another hint that tells you that trim is a method. Okay, contains is a method, to lower is a method. They are all bundled under this object. Okay, let's look at all the members of this object. Okay, there's contains, there's to lower, there's get hash code, there's as memory, there's as span, there's clone, compare to, contain. You can see there are a lot of members under this my string object. Okay, good. Now I just did this to allow you to get an idea, okay, of what an object is. Okay, it's a very simplistic idea, but I think it forms the basis for understanding what objects actually are. Okay, objects are just collection of variables and methods. It doesn't matter how many variables. Okay, you are going to, when you create classes, I'm still trying to avoid classes. Okay, but when you do create classes, that is where you determine the number of variables and methods that an object of that class is going to contain. Okay, like I told you before, to create objects you need classes. Okay, now remember I told you that this string is a data type. Okay, string is also a class. Okay, that is why you are able to create this object. Okay, because string is a class. If string was not a class, you wouldn't have had all these options when you put this period. I don't know if I'm trying to if I'm making it more complex than it actually is, but I'm just trying to give you, anyway, just scratch what I've said about classes. Okay, and what I've said about the string. What I want you to understand is an object is just a collection of variables and methods. And to give you an example of an object, I created this string object here, which is an object of class string. This is my string object, and I showed you that the object actually has all these members, and you can use any of these members. So they are all bundled. All these methods you're seeing and some of these properties or variables, they are all bundled inside this my string object. Okay, and you can use any one of them. Okay, good. I think just to make this very, very simple, I think we should stop here and we'll look at classes in the next or we'll look at a very simple class in the next class in the next class. Okay, we'll look at class in the next class. I hope you understand what I mean. So we'll look at the concept of class in programming in the next class. Okay, all right.